Hi guys, and welcome to this review that I decided to do, which is basically touching on some IEMs which I consider to be fallen heroes. Um, I will be probably doing a couple of more of these reviews because I think it's important to kind of in a way show that the market is so huge and grows so quickly and at such a pace that oftentimes many IEMs are absolutely forgotten when they could have been absolute heroes if certain aspects had been maintained. And with all of these IEMs, one the common denominator I think was timing. They were either launched too early, too late, and that prevented the market to take them in the most ideal manner. And as such, then obviously this had the repercussion of sales not having been what they could have been. That on the one hand is, I think, well, that is in my opinion the main factor. Then there's also the factor of the price, but I think that if things had been properly timed, the price problem wouldn't have been so significant because people would have seen how great any one of these IEMs is, and as such given them their deserved value. Anyway, what then do I have here? I've got here the C Audio Yume 2. C Audio with the Yume series, they had the original, then they had the Clinical collaboration, then they had another one. They've had a couple of successions or a couple of itinerations of the Yume, but the Yume 2, in my opinion, and the only one I don't have of the Yume series is the latest one, because they've now just made it a dual BA IM, which I think was a monumental mistake on their part. The Yume has always been a 1+2, which is what all of these IEMs are. 1+2, 1DD, 2 BAs. And C Audio, by going just the route of the 2 BAs, I honestly don't know what the hell was going on with the person that made that decision. That on the one hand, and on the other hand as well, the absolute ridiculousness of the price. $200 for a 2 BA IM. I mean, come on guys, this is 2025, okay? We need to be competitive. Offer more for less, not less for more. But anyway, the Yume 2 is, in my opinion, and unquestionably the best of the Yume series. Okay. Next to that, I've got here a collaboration between Hi-Fi and BGVP, which is the Red Face, an IM that was hindered by, as I mentioned earlier, timing. I mean, the C Audio came out at least 4 months after when it should have been released. And that absolutely killed it completely annihilated any possibility of it being successful. And this was going back to 2022. The Hi-Fi, the Red Face, suffered the same fate, plus the fact that it was a $200 IM. But if they had launched it when it should have been launched, it would have been fine. Next to that, I've got here the Rose Technique Star City 5 Pro. An IM which is under the $100 price point from Rose Techniques, and probably one of the better IMs that Rose Techniques has. And when I say better, I want to just clarify it before I get criticized. The Rose Techniques is one of those brands that has their own particular house sound. QT9, Mark II, Mark III, QTX, QT7 Pro, the Quiet C, they all have their own peculiar sound profile, and they all sound really good within what their premise is. Undoubtedly, the Quiet C, the 2, is probably one of the better IMs, while also being one of the cheapest, if not the cheapest. The Star City falls within that same category, while other IEMs like the QT7 did the bare minimum, and as such was not successful because of that, because there are other IEMs that do the same at a lower price. The QT9, the same kind of situation. It's a 1+4, really good IM, but again, the fact that it wasn't offering a little bit more for what the price point that it's at is, it meant that its success was limited by that aspect. And also then The QTX to a certain extent. The QTX I think suffered more from being launched at the wrong time than anything else, because the QTX sounds really good. It's a OnePlus 6. It sounds really, really good. Comes with a complete package of accessories with a dongle and everything for $350, if I'm not mistaken. Phenomenal IM. It just was, I think, the timing wasn't the correct one, and the market just wasn't ready for it. The Star City here, the Star City just fell in the forgotten shelf. It's a OnePlus 2, again, really nice sounding IM. I'll just firstly introduce and then I'll break them down sound wise, but really nice IM. Next to that, the TANGZU, the Fudu verse. There's now the verse 2, which I'm hoping that I will get this coming week. This, I think, the biggest issue with the verse was not so much its sound, not so much its price, but was the fact that it was on the fallback of an issue that existed with another IM that I had, and that kind of made people look at TANGZU with the wrong eye, and that was totally wrong. I mean, the IM is really good. It's a phenomenal IM. So in this front row, yeah, I've got something here which is a little bit more recent, which is the Queen of Audio, the Adonis 2. A complete departure from the original Adonis in terms of tuning, but I think it is an absolute beast of an IM in terms of sound. It's got, again, that Queen of Audio, Chimera, Celeste house sound. Phenomenal. I cannot for the life of me understand why it's not being more successful. Honestly, I can understand that, yes, the $200 price point is a little bit steep, but I've seen this come down to as low as $119, and at $119, you can't go wrong, period. Okay, yes, it is, it's got its particular sound characteristic, but it's a well-built, well-accessorized, sounds amazing IM. Okay, and then finally I've got the last two here. The first one here is an IM from XINHS, the HS03, which is an IM that's basically what I did a couple of years ago with the Acros Erasmus. It's very much the same IM. I would say the HS03 improved ever so slightly on the bass, and I say that because I've now, I think this is the fourth set I've now tried. I own two other sets were actually sent to me for me to measure them, but a commonality between all of those sets and the Erasmus is that these, because they don't have the switches, okay, and I guess that meant then that they had to stick with a particular tuning style, they have conferred a little bit extra boost to the bass, and I think, honestly, I actually like this a lot. That extra 2 dBs that it's got across the whole sub-bass, bass region, to almost 3 dBs at points, did give a better balance overall in terms of the sound, which with the Erasmus was only obtainable if you actually, the same sort of balance, if you actually cut the high frequencies slightly, because that had switches. And then finally here, the underdog from CVJ, the MEI, an IM that kind of is based on another IM that CVJ has had before, which was, if memory serves me right, the Armature, also following on the sound, on the name of the HC sound, but it's not an HC sound, it's just got the same name. 1+2 with switches, where the switches actually activate or deactivate the BA, so you can add one or both BAs. I've got it obviously in the 1+2 setting, so everything is working. And this, for the $60 that it costs, it's an absolute beast of an IM, a beast of IM. I would say that this is easily on par with something like the HiFIGO MS2 Pro, which was just recently released, although that's a 1+1. It's on that level of performance. The MS2 Pro is a phenomenal IM. This is on the H20 from ISN. This is on the same sort of level of performance, if maybe not even a little bit better. And that's it. So we've got here 7 IMs. The only one that's more recent is obviously here the Adonis. The rest of them are already over a year old easily. The only one here that is no longer available is the Yume 2. The others you can still find them. I mean, you can find the red face on AliExpress, the Star City, the Fudu as well. I've seen the Fudu as low as $40. I mean, for $40 you can't go wrong. Seriously, the HS03 is also still available. You can find it at XINHS store as well as the MEI. So yeah, let me just give a quick then breakdown of the IEMs in terms of sound, and because this isn't in no means a oh, this one is better than that, or this one is no. The Yume 2 I think is the one that probably has the most Harman style of tuning here. It's got a nice gliding bass, almost flat by 200 hertz, and then pin again starts at about 1k, peaks at about 2.5 roughly, and then plateaus across and starts dropping off after the 8k peak. Incredible mids. I mean, the Yume never really had any issue with the mids, so vocals are phenomenal. The problem of the Yume was it either was too lean in the bass, or then it had a bass which was perhaps overly emphasized, but that overemphasis that was given to it actually showed the limitations of the driver. In the case of the Yume 2, they've gone for the metal shell. They in my opinion probably chosen a better quality driver, and the balance that they've struck between the bass and the mids is well done. I mean, that 100 hertz point corresponds to basically 2k, but there's a nice amount of energy below 100 hertz. There's a nice amount of energy between 2 and about 7k when we have the peak by the coupler, and everything just gets balanced out very nicely. So vocals are phenomenal. It's a really good vocal IEM with really good bass. It's got that nice, it's not a bass head IEM, but it's got that nice presence. It's there, you feel it, and you play anything on it and it does a phenomenal job in my opinion. And there's really, I mean, unless you're an absolute diehard bass head, you know, there is very little or nothing, to be honest, that you will find is a problem. So be it from in the sentimental mood by Cecil Norby, going it all the way to any EDM song, the Yume 2 does a really competent job. Trust me, it really does a good job of it. So I can't criticize it. It's like I said, its problem was it came out at the wrong time. If you are able to get your hands on a second-hand unit at a good price, I would say yes, get it. You won't be disappointed. Okay, let's talk about here the red face. The red face is probably, out of all of these IEMs, the one that will be at least graphically the most V-shaped. Great big bass, but the driver that they're using here is a reasonable quality driver. So although yes, we do have a really big thick bass in that, so let's say 40 to 150 hertz area, it tucks in really nicely close to 250 hertz, and so it doesn't interfere too much with the mids. And then the mids have got a nice energy to them. If anything, that energy is just slightly hindered by the fact that yes, you do pick up on a little bit of the BA timbre here and there, but that contrast actually is been well done. It's been well done. The drivers have been capable enough, and you get a very fun, engaging sound. Fine, this is not going to be an IEM if what you're looking for is ultimate audiophile perfection, no. But if you want a very well done colored sound, definitely, no issues there. Okay. Going here now to the Star City. The Star City is one of those IEMs that on graph you think, oh, okay, this doesn't look neither here or there. You know, it's got a nice gliding style of bass, flat by roughly 200 hertz as well, continues, pin again, peaks at about 2.5 and shoots across. It's got a nice dip there at about 5k, so can try and to a certain extent mitigate any possible harshness that can come out of that particular frequency. And then it's got a little bit of extension past 10k, so good clarity up top, good sense of space. The only issue I particularly found was not in the fact that the bass is, at least graphically wise, low compared to the mids or the highs, was that on occasion that area there of 4k, it just jumped out a little bit, so it was a little bit overly intense for my liking. It wasn't an issue that you know, with some tip rolling, which with the wide board that it comes with actually did help, I must say, and also choosing a proper source won't help. But otherwise, the Star City again, very nice, easy to listen IM. Really not much that, once again, I can criticize, apart from that small little issue that I just mentioned with that maybe excessive energy that in that area there of 4 or 5k, although there is that dip, it does come across. But otherwise, nice bass, it's clean, the vocals are great, good detail up top as well. So nothing again that can be pointed as a major fault that would in any way lead or justify the Star City not being more successful. Fudu versus the original, a warmer sounding IM out of all of these. The Yume 2 is a balanced type of sound. This is a more of a V-shaped sound. This is a kind of balanced, semi bright type of sound in terms of the mids or intense. This is definitely a more warm style of sound. That 100 hertz point I like looking at completely covers the whole mids and upper mids and treble of the Fudu. The good thing about all of that is that there's no possible fatigue. At least this was definitely one of the most unfatiguing IMs out of all of them. It doesn't sound also as warm as you would possibly think. There is a good amount of detail, a good amount of ability to go and fetch micro details and so on and so forth. If anything is going to be a real nitpick, is the fact that maybe the soundstage is a little bit closed down. Maybe the imaging is not the ideal as compared to some of the others that I've talked about so far. But honestly, the Fudu really plays very, very well. The bass could be at times a little bit cleaner, but it's got a nice sense of weight to it. It's got a nice sense of, like I usually do these analogies with cars, it's got a nice sense of cubic inches, let's put it that way. So it's a nice sounding IM that, for the price that it was out at $79 when it was released, I really honestly don't understand why it wasn't more successful. It wasn't hindered by BA issues of, you noticing the BA timbre. It had a really nice build. Honestly, I think it was just the fact that TANGZU was coming out of that issue that it had, and so yeah, people were just a little bit skeptical and very quick to judge. Queen of Audio, the Adonis 2, I've made a review about it. I've talked about it extensively. All I'm going to say is that I absolutely am a diehard of the Adonis. I think it's phenomenally well done IM in terms of the bass. You look at the graph and you think, oh my god, this has got tons of bass. And yes, it does have tons of bass, but the driver is a good quality driver. Because the driver is a good quality driver, the bass it's potent. It's got emphasis, but it's a clean, it's a thud with power behind it. It's not like a thud and it's like mellow. No, it's a thud that's got some cleanliness, some punch behind it. So bass is an absolute beast. It's got then those mids and upper mids done in that meta style with a little bit of a kink there at 2 kilohertz, but nicely done. And then it's got a nice amount of energy up top there at 5, 6, 7, 8k, which helps give a nice contrast with the amount of bass you get. Overall, I just love the sound of the Adonis 2. I think it's a really, really good sounding IM, and if you can get this IM at the lower price bracket when it's on sale, no question there. Talking now here about the HS03. I mentioned earlier that that hasn't got the switches, but I think the switches actually worked in favor of the HS03 by being able to give it that little extra energy in the bass department, which I honestly think really did help. It's got a tuning which is a little bit more reminiscent of the QDC style tuning, with that earlier rise of the Pina peaks about 1.8k, so things are a little bit more forward. But the balance, not only in the Erasmus, but the balance that they also struck in the HS03 is so well done that honestly, I obviously I respect people's opinions, and in general the overall consensus of the Erasmus was a good consensus, because the IM really is a good IM. It's not because it was something that I helped created. I just think it was a really nicely sounding IM. It really did sound nice. It was if anything, the problem was I didn't have enough financial ability to make more of them, and if I had made more of them, more people would have gotten hold of them and would have seen how good it actually was. You know, it's got an 8mm driver, 2 BAs, everything is very smooth. It's got I'm trying to find here an analogy for terms of sound. It's got a kind of a, like I said, a QDC, a Knowles VX type of vibe of tuning. It's got a sound which some of the IEMs from The Audio as well also have, and it also sounds to a certain extent somewhat similar to the TRI. I'm trying to remember the name, the Star C, I think it was. So all of that to say what? Gliding style of bass, but with a lot more presence than what you would be led to believe when you take in consideration it's an 8mm driver. It's got good weight, it's clean in that thud. The rise into the pin again rise, as I said, into the mids. It's a little bit earlier than usual, but that balance that's been struck is a nicely done balance. So there's no shoutiness. There's that dip again that I made sure existed at around 5k, so that it wouldn't be a problem, and it isn't a problem. So it's very smooth. It's a very unfatiguing style of listen. You don't get tired of listening to it. I mean, we're talking about a pin again of roughly 7 dBs. I think that's one of the reasons why it's an easy IM to listen to for extended period of times. It plays well, basically everything. I can't really complain, but I did, and I've always enjoyed it more when I'm listening to some jazz that I like listening to. Anything from La Belle Dame Sans Regret to Twilight to Comfort Zone by Larry Carlton to Carol Duboc, Cecil Norby. I really like the way that the HS03 performs in with that style of music, and I would definitely say that if you can pick this up, with a little bit of a discount, why not? I don't think you'll be disappointed, honestly. I've seen this come down to just below $100. I think the usual price is about $119, but that's it. And then finally, here the MEI, $60 as I mentioned, and it's a beast of an IM. Honestly, it is truly a beast of an IM. I would say that switching off the BAs maybe doesn't allow it to be as competent as it actually is in its 1+2 format. But hey, what the hell, give it a go. Switch off the BAs if you want to. It's just going to make the sound obviously warmer and less detailed, but in its 1+2 configuration, the bass, it's a nice big bass. It's got presence, it's got emphasis, and then the way that the whole mids, upper mids and treble is done is very smooth. So this is again a warmer sounding IEM along the lines of like the Fudu. They have the same sort of vibe in terms of overall tuning. I'll show you now the graphs and you'll see what I'm saying. And I would say even perhaps the HS03 also fall within this category of although the HS03 is not as warm as other two, but they fall within this category of relatively low pinna gains, with a bass level that then varies between the three of them. But the overall sort of sound, and when I show you the graph you'll see exactly what I mean, is basically very similar. On the other hand, things like the Yume 2, the red face, well, not really. I would say red face and Adonis probably kind of in the same sort of more big sounding bass IMs, while then ultimately I think the Yume 2 and the Star City are similar to a great extent as well in their style of tuning and sound. Anyway guys, let me just quickly show you the graphs and we'll wrap it up. Okay, so let's start now here with the graphs. Probably start you off here with the XINHS, the HS03, and as you can see, very smooth, very relaxed type of tune. No crazy pinna gains, no crazy boosts of the bass, but the way it sounds is a little bit bigger than what the graph would make you believe. You would probably think that this would be a little bit lean on the bass, coupled with the fact it's only an 8mm driver. No, not really. It's got a nice warm kind of vibe to it. It sounds plenty detailed. The BAs up top are not aggressive or tuned in any manner which is going to be aggressive and showcase their negative aspects. so can't complain there. The Tangu Fudu, which I've just placed up now, as you can see, very similar overall in terms of the tuning. It's also got that kind of dip there in that 5K area, the same sort of peak, obviously a couple related, same extension past 10K, the same sort of pin gain, a little bit more energy in the bass. It's also 10mm driver, and you do notice it's got a little bit more bass, but again, I repeat, it's actually interesting to see that the difference between the two of them is not as great as you would possibly think. And then finally the CVJ MEI, probably the one that has the most mid-bass impact of the three, coupled to as well the least energy here in the mids and upper mids. Although again, when you actually listen to the MEI, you will be pleasantly surprised because it doesn't sound as possibly flat as you think here. Okay, again, I'm repeating myself, I know, but these three, as you can see, are very similar. So CVJ MEI, Fudu Verse, XINHS, they all have that same style of tuning. Okay, a little bit on the more warmer side, more organic type sound. The Yume 2 is this graph, very detailed, almost clinical by comparison to the previous three. Okay, but again, extremely well tuned IM, very well tuned IM. The Star City has the same sort of vibe. It's difficult to say. I would say the Star City, yes, doesn't have the same sort of extension up top there, but in terms of the bass, it's actually interesting. I would say that they sound a hell of a lot more similar in terms of the bass than what the graph would lead you to believe, but the same sort of sound, you know, where the 100 hertz corresponds to the mids point is basically the same, 2 kilohertz. It's very similar. Both are extremely competent, obviously totally different price points, but that it is what it is. VGVP THI-Fi red face, this is the most, let's say, kind of V-shaped crazy one of the bunch. Great pin gain, great bass gain. We're talking about so 69 to 82, 13 dBs of bass gain. That 100 hertz point there corresponds nicely to about 2 kilohertz. Nice amount of energy. It's actually interesting because the overall sound is a lot more balanced than what you would be led to believe by the graph, obviously. It is tendentially a little bit more V, yes, no doubt, but it's interesting because the energy that they've given here to the BAs is kind of doing a good job of keeping up with all that bass, and so the bass, instead of being big and thick like you see here, it actually sounds a lot more incisive and precise than what you would think. So THI-Fi definitely did a very well tuned V-shaped IM, let's put it that way. Another IM that has a very similar tuning and it actually sounds totally different is the Rose Techniques, the QT7. The QT7 Pro, they graph very similar and they couldn't be more different in terms of their overall sound. The THI-Fi does sound more detailed ultimately. Okay, and finally the Queen of Audio, the Adonis 2, the bass monster, I would say, out of the bunch. Seriously, if you haven't had the opportunity to listen to the Adonis, I think you should, because you will be very impressed. If you choose the right source and just use the stock tips because they work fine, you're gonna be quite impressed by how big this IM sounds, how much rumble it's capable of doing. In terms then of the mids, upper mids and treble, really nicely done as well. No excessiveness, no bleed into the no bleeding, no harshness, no raspiness in the sound. I mean, there can't be with this amount of bass coming from behind. So it's this excess of bass coupled to the BAs being tuned in the manner that they were tuned, which, I mean, yeah, it is quite prominent in this area of 5, 6, 7K. It just strikes a really good balance. If there is any issue that I can point at the Queen of Audio, the Adonis 2, is that I would have liked maybe the soundstage to be a little bit bigger, but no, this is more of a organic type of old school sound. There is, okay, to a certain extent, I guess, some similarities here to the THI-Fi, especially in the bass department. The THI-Fi is significantly more detailed, and it's more present here in this area of the mids to upper mids. That's without question. But look, as I've said, every single one of these IEMs has their own tuning style. Their tuning style has always, in my opinion, been very well done. It's just for some reason it just fell, out of the general public's attention. and it's a pity. I mean, especially what I'm just showing you now again, the CVJ, the MEI. It's such a good sounding IM. Trust me, guys. It is such a good sounding IM. It plays really well. You choose the tips, you choose your source, and you will not be disappointed. Trust me. Okay. Anyway, guys, hope you liked this little take of mine. Like I said, this wasn't to find the best OnePlus 2 or whatever. It was to find or talk about IMs that have been forgotten, and like this selection here, there's countless others that have been forgotten, and it's a pity because we all fall within that. Let me go buy the latest, and we forget that we have these gems from the past, which are still very capable today, still as good as any one of these IMs today, or a lot of these IMs that we have now today, and they've just been forgotten. Pity, a true pity. Guys, like and subscribe. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Alright, you take care now. Bye bye.